All right, so you wanted to know about genius, right? About that potential for greatness inside every single one of us.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, you sent us some really cool stuff from this book called How to Be a Genius by Wallace D.Wattles. And we're going to take a deep dive into it today.
All right.
So first things first, who was this Wattles guy?
Oh, he was writing back in the early 1900s.
Okay.
And he was really into, like, personal development. You know, that whole idea of achieving success and reaching your full potential.
Yeah, I get that.
Not really an academic, more like a practical philosopher, you know.
Interesting. So what's one of the most, like, captivating things he says right off the bat?
Well, one of the first things he does is pose this question. Is genius like something you're born with? Or can anyone, you know, tap into it?
That is a great question.
Right. What do you think?
I don't know. That's what we're here to find out, right?
Exactly. And Wattles makes a pretty bold claim right away. He believes there's this principle of power inside every single person.
Oh, wow.
And get this, he says, no one has ever even come close to reaching the peak of human potential.
Wait, no one. So, like, even Einstein, even Da Vinci, they haven't even scratched the surface.
Nope. Not even close, according to Wattles. He uses this analogy of a basket of flower bulbs. You know how they all look the same?
Yeah.
But they can blossom into all these completely different, unique flowers.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
He's saying we're kind of like that. We might seem similar on the surface, but we all have this unique potential just waiting to, like, burst forth.
Okay, so we've all got this untapped potential. What about our background? You know, like our genetics or upbringing, all that stuff. Doesn't that play a role?
It's funny you should mention that because Wattles tackles that head on. He argues that things like inherited tendencies are really just like subconscious mental habits.
Oh, okay.
And you know habits can be changed, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But come on, some people are just naturally gifted.
Well, he even addresses that whole thing about your skull shape determining intelligence. Remember, phrenology.
Vaguely, yeah. Wasn't that like a Victorian era thing?
Exactly. It was super popular in Wattles' time, but he's challenging that whole notion.
Okay.
He says the brain is like a muscle. It grows and adapts based on how we use it.
So if someone like Abraham Lincoln could become president with very little schooling,
right,
it really suggests that we're not, you know, totally bound by our limitations.
And Lincoln is actually a key figure for Wattles. He saw him as someone who achieved greatness through sheer willpower and the power of thought.
I like that, the power of thought.
He even goes as far as to say that true power comes from wisdom, not just talent or intellect.
So it sounds like we need to shift our focus, right? From external factors to something deeper, something internal. But what is this wisdom he keeps talking about?
That's where things get really interesting. He talks about tapping into the mind of God.
Mind of God. Whoa, hold on. Is this getting kind of religious?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
He uses that term to describe a kind of universal intelligence, like a source of all knowledge that permeates everything.
So not about dogma.
Right. It's more about connecting to this wellspring of universal wisdom.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but how do we actually do that? Like, how do we tap into this mind of God?
Well, Wattles lays out this specific process. He calls the first step preparation, and it's all about clearing away all that mental clutter, you know.
Mental clutter?
Yeah, the stuff that distorts our perception of truth.
So like fear and anxiety, all that negative self-talk.
Exactly. Those emotions can really cloud our judgment.
For sure. It's like trying to look through a dirty window. You can't really see clearly.
That's a great way to put it. So step one is to clean that window, to clear our minds of all the negativity.
Okay, I'm with you so far. So we've decluttered our minds. What's next?
The next step he calls the social point of view. And this is about viewing the world as perfect in its current state of evolution.
Even the things we perceive as negative, like war, famine, injustice, all that stuff.
He's not saying those things are good, of course, but he's saying they're all part of this larger process of evolution, a journey towards a more perfect state.
Oh, I see. So it's more about accepting that everything is part of a bigger picture, a bigger plan, even if we don't fully understand it.
You got it. And then he takes it even further with the individual point of view.
Okay, let me guess.
Oh?
It's about applying that same perspective to ourselves and others.
You're catching on.
Seeing everyone, flaws and all, as part of that perfect evolving process.
That's it. It's about cultivating this deep sense of compassion and understanding for everybody.
Wow, that's a pretty radical idea. To see even the people we might dislike as being perfect in their current state.
It's definitely challenging, but It's central to Wattles's whole philosophy. He believed that judging and condemning just creates separation. True wisdom lies in seeing the inherent worth in everyone.
Okay, so we've prepared our minds, shifted our perspective. What's next on this path?
Well, the next step is what he calls consecration. And it's about aligning our actions with our highest ideals, striving to live in a way that reflects our truest selves.
So it's not enough to just think the right thoughts. We have to actually act on them, live in a way that's consistent with our values.
Yeah, he believed that true greatness is not so much in what we think, but what we do.
It's like that saying, actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly. It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And then building on that comes identification.
Identification? With what?
With the universal mind. He actually uses this really powerful phrase.
Okay.
There is only one, and that one is everywhere. I surrender myself to conscious unity with the highest.
Wow. That's pretty deep. He's saying that we're not just separate individuals, but part of something much bigger, more interconnected.
Yeah, that's the essence of it. And when we really grasp that unity, that's when we can tap into the boundless wisdom of the universal mind.
Okay, this is getting pretty intense. And there's more.
There's more.
All right. I'm ready. Bring it on. What's the next step on this path to unlocking our inner genius?
The next one is called idealization. It's about forming a clear mental picture of, the greatest version of ourselves, the person we aspire to be. And we hold that image with unwavering faith.
So it's like creating a mental blueprint for our future selves, visualizing the best version of who we could be.
Exactly. And Wattles believed the mind is so powerful that by focusing our attention on a specific outcome, we can actually draw it into reality.
Okay, so we've prepared our minds, shifted our perspective, consecrated our actions, identified with the universal mind, and idealized our future selves. Phew. What's the final step? How do we actually make all of this a reality?
The final step is realization. And this is where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
It's about taking all those previous steps and putting them into action in every aspect of our lives, no matter how small.
So it's about bridging that gap between our inner world and our outer world.
You got it. It's about expressing that ideal self we've been envisioning in everything we do.
Wow, this is a lot to take in. But I'm seeing how it all builds on itself, It's a journey of inner transformation that eventually leads to outward manifestation.
Exactly. It's a process of becoming who we truly are, aligning our thoughts and actions with our highest potential.
And Wattles really stresses the importance of thought, right? He says that greatness is attained only by the thinking of great thoughts.
He does. And he goes on to say that there are two types of thinkers, those who think for themselves and those who just kind of rely on the thoughts of others.
Yeah.
He really challenges us to become original thinkers, to question assumptions and to form our own conclusions.
So he's not advocating for blind faith or anything. He wants us to be critical thinkers, to question everything and figure things out for ourselves.
Absolutely. Wattles believed that true wisdom comes from within, not from blindly accepting what other people tell us.
This is all fascinating, but I'm curious about how he connects all of this to the teachings of Jesus.
That's a great question, and it's one we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back. Okay, so last time we were talking about Wattles' 7 steps to unlocking our inner genius.
Right. Preparation, social point of view, all those.
Exactly. And you mentioned that he connects this whole process to the teachings of Jesus.
Yes, he was very much inspired by Jesus, and he saw some profound connections there.
So what was Jesus's idea of greatness, according to Wattles?
He believed that Jesus really emphasized the idea of service, not dominion over others. He contrasts that with what he calls the Pharisee mentality, that whole desire for power and recognition.
Right.
He really saw Jesus as the ultimate example of someone who achieved true greatness through humility and service to others.
That's interesting. So it's not about climbing the ladder of success, accumulating wealth and power. It's more about using our gifts to actually uplift humanity, to make a positive difference.
Yeah, that's the essence of it.
Good, but doesn't that sound a little, self-sacrificing, like we have to give up all our own ambitions and desires to constantly serve others?
Well, Wattles wouldn't advocate for self-neglect or martyrdom or anything like that.
Okay, good.
He did emphasize self-respect and boundaries for sure.
Gotcha.
But he believed that true service, like real, genuine service, it comes from a place of love and abundance, not from a sense of obligation or lack.
Yeah. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup kind of thing.
Exactly.
So it's about finding that balance between taking care of ourselves and contributing to the well-being of others.
Exactly. He saw those two things as interconnected, not mutually exclusive.
Okay, I can see that. That makes a lot more sense. But how do we even begin to put all of this into practice? What does it actually look like to act in a great way in our everyday lives?
Well, he actually gives some really practical advice.
Oh, good.
He says, start at home with the people closest to us.
Okay.
He really emphasizes being consistently, poised, kind, and considerate, creating a supportive environment for our families.
So it's about treating our loved ones with the same level of respect and consideration that we would give to, anyone else.
Absolutely, even more so, I'd say, because they're the ones who really see us at our best and worst, right?
That is true.
He believed that greatness, real greatness, it starts in those small, everyday interactions, not necessarily in these grand gestures or heroic deeds. It's about being the best version of ourselves in every single moment, even when nobody's watching.
I like that. And how does that extend beyond, our families to the wider world?
He encouraged us to extend that same attitude to everyone we encounter, treat everyone with respect, regardless of their status or circumstances.
So it's about recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, regardless of their background, their beliefs, their behaviors.
Exactly.
Even people who maybe rub us the wrong way.
Even those people, yep. It's about choosing to respond with compassion and understanding rather than judgment and condemnation.
Okay, that's tough, but I get it. It's kind of like that individual point of view we talked about before, isn't it?
Yeah, there's definitely a connection there. They both emphasize that inherent worth and potential in every single person.
Okay, I see how it all fits together. So it's not about some abstract notion of greatness. It's about making a conscious choice to show up as our best selves in every interaction we have.
Beautifully put. And Wattles also stresses trusting our intuition, having faith in our own perception of truth, even if it goes against conventional wisdom.
So we got to listen to that inner voice, that gut feeling, even if it doesn't make sense logically.
Exactly. He believed our intuition is like a direct connection to the universal mind, It goes beyond our limited human understanding.
Okay, this is really inspiring. But I got to be honest, I'm also feeling a little bit of that old anxiety creeping in.
Yeah, how so?
There's so much to do, so much to learn, so much to change. It's a little overwhelming.
I get it. It can feel like a lot. But Wattles wouldn't want you to feel overwhelmed.
Okay.
He cautions against hurry and fear. Those are signs that we've lost sight of the bigger picture.
So it's more about cultivating a sense of calm and trust in the process.
Precisely. Remember, this is a journey, not a destination. And it's a journey best taken with a calm and peaceful mind.
Okay, that makes sense. This is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, all of this seems very focused on the individual.
Yeah.
What about the impact our individual greatness can have on the world? Did Wattles address that?
That's an excellent question. And it's actually a perfect lead-in to the next part of our deep dive. Because Wattles didn't just stop at individual transformation. He connected it to a much larger vision of, social progress.
Oh, okay.
The betterment of humanity as a whole. But we'll have to save that for part 3.
All right, sounds good. Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into this idea of how our individual journeys towards greatness can actually contribute to a larger social transformation.
Yeah. Wattles was adamant that individual transformation is the key to societal transformation. He saw a direct link between our inner world of thought and the outer world of action. So it's like as we unlock our own inner genius, as we become more wise and compassionate, it naturally ripples outwards.
Exactly. It influences the world around us. It inspires others. It's like that Gandhi quote, be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. So Wattles believed that this is like an evolutionary process, this gradual awakening of humanity to its true potential.
Precisely. And it all starts with each individual, recognizing their own inherent greatness and then expressing that in their thoughts, their words, their actions.
So we're not waiting for some external force to change the world for us. We have the power to actually create that change from within.
That's the heart of it.
That's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. And he believed that as more and more people embrace these principles of greatness, it will inevitably lead to a more just, harmonious, and prosperous society for everyone.
That's a vision I can get behind, for sure. But what if we don't feel ready? I mean, what if we're still struggling with our own limitations and insecurities? How can we be expected to change the world when we're still working on ourselves?
That's a really valid question, and I think it's important to remember that Wattles wouldn't want anyone to feel pressured.
Okay, good.
Remember, he emphasized taking things one step at a time. He understood that growth is a process. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be challenges along the way.
So it's okay to stumble and fall, as long as we keep moving forward, keep learning, keep growing?
That's the spirit of it. Every experience, even those challenging ones, they're opportunities for growth and learning. Embrace the journey, imperfections, and all,
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of curious about, the specifics. How does this individual transformation actually translate into, tangible social change?
Well, it's a subtle but powerful shift.
Yeah.
As we cultivate wisdom,
Yeah.
As we align ourselves with that universal mind that Wattles talked about, we become more attuned to the needs of others. Okay.
We're able to make wiser decisions that benefit not just ourselves, but the collective good.
So it's not just about achieving personal success.
Right.
It's about using our gifts and talents to actually make a positive contribution to the world.
You got it. He saw true greatness as being inextricably linked to service. It's not about what we gain for ourselves. It's about what we can give back to humanity.
This reminds me of what you were saying about Wattles' interpretation of Jesus' teachings.
Oh, yeah.
He saw Jesus as the ultimate example of, someone who achieved greatness through service and humility.
Yeah, he saw Jesus' life as a model for all of us. A life of purpose, of meaning. A life that was truly dedicated to uplifting others.
So we can look to Jesus as a role model for how to put these principles into action, even if we're not religious ourselves.
Absolutely. Wattles wasn't advocating for any particular religion, but he saw in Jesus' example a universal truth about the nature of true greatness. It's not about power, it's not about prestige, it's about love, compassion, and service. Man, this is so inspiring. But I have to be honest, sometimes when I look around at the state of the world, with all the suffering and injustice, I feel a sense of, despair. How can we possibly make a difference when there are such overwhelming challenges?
Yeah, I get it. Those feelings are understandable. Wattles didn't shy away from the harsh realities of the world, but he refused to give in to despair.
Okay.
He believed that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. We're not alone in this. We are connected to this incredible source of wisdom and strength, and when we tap into that power, we become agents of change.
Okay, that does give me a renewed sense of hope. But I still feel kind of overwhelmed by the scope of it all. Where do we even begin? It feels like trying to boil the ocean,
Well, Wattles was a big believer in starting small, focusing on those everyday interactions where we can choose to express greatness.
So it's not about waiting for this grand opportunity to, save the world or something. It's about those small, everyday moments where we can choose to be kind, to be compassionate, to be helpful.
Exactly. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every moment of genuine connection, they all have the potential to create positive change.
I really like that idea. Greatness isn't reserved for some elite few. It's something we can all embody in our daily lives.
And remember, those small acts, they create a ripple effect. They influence the world around us in ways we may never fully comprehend.
So it's about shifting our focus from the big, overwhelming problems of the world to what we can actually control, our own thoughts, actions, and interactions.
Exactly. And that's a really powerful shift.
It is. I'm starting to see how all of this fits together now. It's not about becoming a superhero or saving the world single-handedly. It's about embracing our own potential for greatness and then using that power to make a difference. One thought, one action, one interaction at a time.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about understanding that we all have this capacity to be great. And as we embrace that greatness, we become like beacons of light, illuminating the path for others to follow.
Man, this has been an incredible conversation. So insightful, so inspiring. I feel like I have a whole new set of tools for navigating life and making a positive impact.
I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the most important thing is to take what resonates with you and start putting it into practice. Experiment. See what works.
Absolutely. It's not about memorizing concepts. It's about actually integrating them into our lives, making them a part of who we are.
And remember, this is a journey. It's not about reaching some final destination. It's about continually evolving and growing.
That's such an important reminder. Well, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive for today.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. It's been incredibly enriching. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We hope you found it as inspiring and thought-provoking as we have.
Yeah, we hope it sparked something in you.
Remember, the power to change the world lies within each of us.
It really does.
So go out there and be the genius you were born to be.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.